have thickness in the left ventricular wall. We want that chamber to grow so that it can get more volume when it relaxes in that end diastolic volume. How do you do that? Easy aerobic work over time. Simple, easy things. You hear a lot about zone 2 training. It doesn't have to necessarily be zone 2, but easy, right? So if I'm on the bike, maybe someone doesn't have a heart rate monitor on, or they don't know what zone 2 is for them. I would just tell them, hey, go on the bike. These are longer duration work, so volume is a key here, but you want them to go easy. Go nasal breathing. So then you know they're forced to stay at a certain pace and they're not exerting themselves, where they have to take deep breaths of air in to get oxygen and be able to perform. If they're going nasal breathing, that forces them to not have to go super hard. So if you want to increase your stroke volume and cardiac output, long, slow, easy work. And you could do it through cross training too. It doesn't have to be just running. You could bike, you could easy swim, row, hike, those type of things. But just know that the big thing here is doing a lot of volume of it, keeping it truly easy. Okay, and you're going to get these adaptations. I mentioned before when we were looking at the heart that the left ventricular chamber that you see, the left ventricle of the heart, has to do a lot with endurance training, V02Max performance in that sense, because that's what's pumping blood out. So if you're doing this long, slow work, that's where you see a lot of the adaptations happen. The thickness of the left ventricular wall will thicken in a good way, not in an unhealthy way, because there is unhealthy thickening of that left ventricular wall from diseases, but it thickens proportionally to the rest of the heart. So that's good. The chamber size increases, which will lead to the increase in the end diastolic volume. So when it relaxes, it can really get a lot of blood in, which then increases the stroke volume. Any questions on that? Long, slow, easy work. Consistently over time. And then this is not like something you're going to see really quick results from, months to years. So that's why you see people who have been doing easy aerobic work for a long period of time where they can like run forever, but it's because like they've gotten this adaptation. Doing it for 4 weeks isn't going to get you there. This is just over time. Right. Yeah.
So you and I are very similar in our running to where my heart rate will be according to my Garmin. Like
Yeah.
Zone 4, zone 5.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yet I can literally run for 12 miles a day
Yeah.
the whole time, right? And so I had actually came back from a run and Joseph and I were, this is, welcome to the Hoffman household, the things that we talk about. But I'm like, what does that have to do with my cardiac output? Like,
Yeah.
does that mean that my heart is like stronger than it, like, what is it doing to the oxygen? Like, we didn't really come up with an answer. I'm like, but so, like, what is the connection, the correlation then? Like, if I did nasal breathe, so that's like my zone 2, but my heart rate is 175 the entire time. Like, is that actually a zone 2 for my steady state? Or, like, because you have these natural tendency windows.
Yeah.
Like, somebody arbitrarily put out there for average human, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, so what is it that is going on? Like, do we have an answer? Do we know? Like,
Well, we also, the other thing was the tool. So that was like just wrist-based Garmin. Then she puts a heart rate strap on, and it's about 20 beats per minute lower. So
Okay.
you have
so if I'm
vast
only going
differences in
off
the
of
quality
wrist,
of the tool assessing that.
Yeah.
And what is the true?
Yeah.
if I use only the wrist and I don't wear the chest strap version, I'm like almost the entire run is in zone 5. If I
Yeah.
put the chest strap on, my entire run becomes zone 4. But it's never
It's still
like,
hot.
It's never like a true zone 2 or something.
well, yeah, but I mean, that's what I was telling her. I'm like, but the whole time, like, so I'm out here, I've been running for 10 miles, I get stuck at a stoplight, and I'm not, like, breathing hard, right?
Yeah.
For the thing, I'm not like,
Yeah.
so, like, I don't know what's happening. Obviously, it has to do with this
Yeah.
somewhere, but I don't know if it's, like, something's gone, like, with my heart, this is just how it is. It just wants to, like, it goes from 0 to 60. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, we're going.
Yeah.
I can still breathe normally. Like, I don't know what, I'm assuming it has to do with
Yeah, so, okay, so I'm gonna go off, I think, several different tangents, so I'll try to keep like my thoughts consolidated. Because I've always said, like, for me, I think it's, like I've mentioned this to Marley, I think I'm a naturally like high heart rate type person just because of like the nature of how I am. Like I get anxiety. I'm like, I can't just like chill out, and I just feel like stress plays a role in it. That's for me personally. I think also the fact that I don't drink enough water and all that stuff. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, right? But that's where you'll see people do heart rate training, heart rate zones. I don't necessarily like it. I'll tell people, hey, go zone 2, meaning go easy. Be able to nasal breathe. But if you're going truly through zone 2, like my zone 2, this is it. Anything above this speed, it's zone 5. Right. Like it's just not gonna happen. So when I tell people zone 2, I mean easy, be able to have the conversational pace, the talk test, nasal breathing, things like that. So I think for you specifically, you just have a naturally higher heart rate, and that's one factor. Another thing too, you've been running for 10 years-ish, a long time, right? I think you've maxed out your cardiac your central adaptations pretty well. And I would say that yours is already maxed out. So your stroke volume and cardiac output are pretty strong already, right? Like your heart is strong. That's not an issue. So you're pumping efficiently, you have enough muscle in the heart, and everything else that will help you is either going to be peripheral adaptations or integrating things like faster speed intervals if you don't do that already. So that you get used to getting that maximum heart rate at those faster speeds, getting that adaptation through that stimulus, and then eventually those easy runs that you know are easy, your heart has adapted to being high for higher stimulus. So when you continue doing your easy work, it knows now how to slow down a bit. Yeah. So I think, because do you do a lot of speed interval work? I don't either. And so I think that's one of the things.
As just a person or my trainer?
Yeah. I don't know. You don't know. Like it could be either one. But I don't either. So I think people who do a lot of easy aerobic work, they accumulate a lot of volume. I know I do the same thing. I avoid interval work because I don't like it. Truly, like that's the reason I don't do it. And my stomach gets upset when I do hard intervals. I'm like, why am I going to make my tummy upset? Like, I just don't want to do it. So I think that's one reason why, is that we're so used to that low, slow, long, easy, being able to volume accumulate, but we're not used to doing consistent work of harder intervals where our heart truly works maximum capacity. So when we do easy, it knows to slow down. So when we bring our heart rate to do work, it automatically goes higher. But we haven't taught it to be like, hey, this is what hard is and this is easy. Right. So I think that has something to do with it too.
I mean, it's just like, because Joseph and I said we would talk about it, and he's like, oh my God, if my heart rate was at 180 for an hour and a half, I would actually pass out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly. And Marley is someone where she could keep her heart rate low, but Marley also is good at like doing interval work. I think you've been doing consistent interval work for a while now. And so when she does her easy runs, like she is truly like, you look at her Whoop data and all that, like truly zone 2. Like, yeah, it's actually wild. I could never. All right. So, huh?
You're getting anxiety.
Yeah, I know. My heart rate's high right now. I could feel it. Then there's increasing mitochondrial density, right? So the powerhouse of the cell. We want a lot of those because that is where ATP is produced. So if we have a lot of those in our body and it's densely populated throughout, guess what? We're going to be producing a lot of energy, and oxygen has a place to go to produce this energy. If we produce the energy, we could keep doing the work we want to do. And how do we increase that? We increase that through layering intensities. So you want, again, that foundational work of zone 2. We want that. We need that. We already established that helps with the central adaptations, but it also helps with mitochondrial density. What else do we need? We need tempo work where you're working at a threshold, right? So tempo work, there's Norwegians do this method where they do tempo work using lactate. So they find out where the lactate threshold is, and then they do intervals, and then after each interval, they take some blood and they see how close they are to their threshold, and they're like, okay, we're operating just below our threshold. It's hard, but not hard enough where you're like VO2 max type work. Obviously, we're not going to be pricking ourselves in the ear every time we do a tempo session and have someone standing there doing that for us, right? It's just not possible. So, not feasible. So, threshold work, instead, I tell people that's like RPE 7 to 8, like, oh shit, that was hard, but I could keep going for a few more minutes. Like, it's a hard session, but it didn't like beat you up. If you ever went for a really truly hard run where you're like breathing heavy the whole time, you start having like your ribs and your lungs feel like sore at the end of it from expanding and all that. That's like VO2 max work. Like you were breathing pretty heavily and all that stuff. Tempo, it's like you went hard, but you can recover enough to like, lift in a few hours or have another training day tomorrow. Okay, so 7 to 8. So it's hard, but not super hard. And you also want to add in layers or sprinkle in some VO2 max work. And that's those really high intensity, kind of maximal effort intervals, right? And we'll talk about one specifically that's like you'll hear in all podcasts when they talk about longevity and VO2 max, the Norwegian method of the 4x4. We'll talk about that after. But essentially, to increase mitochondrial density, you want to do a lot of zone 2 aerobic work, layer in some tempo, sprinkle in VO2 max super hard work. Okay, so you're getting touched on everything. And the reason is there are pathways in our body. There's AMPK, PCG1 alpha. Those things, when they're activated, and they get activated through these type of exercises, through these type of workouts, they get activated, they send a signal to the rest of the body to start creating more mitochondria. Mitochondrial biogenesis, it's called. So if we can get those pathways activated, then we're good to go there. And that's activated through primarily these. Like there's one, that PCG1 alpha pathway, it's activated a lot by the VO2 max intervals. The tempo work usually activates a lot of the AMPK pathway, which the AMPK pathway is activated when it sees a decrease in ATP. So if you're doing work, ATP is being used up. The body recognizes that and it's like, there's less ATP like circulating, something's going on. We have to activate this pathway so that we can restore that so the body can continue working. So it's a whole feedback loop happening everywhere.
When you're talking about that, is it like all in one session? So like say you're doing like an hour zone 2, are you saying then sprinkle in some tempos within that, or are you saying these are completely different?
Good question. Completely different sessions, right? So if I'm looking, and we'll talk about like what a example program would be, but if you're looking through a week, right? Most of the week, have you ever heard like the 80% rule? 80% of your endurance work should be like easy. That's where they get that, right? Like just arbitrary number, but most of it should be easy. Sprinkle in some tempo, one hard session. And then capillary density. So the capillary density is where nutrient diffusion happens, oxygen diffusion primarily. So if we get more capillaries throughout our body, so it becomes more dense. We have more oxygen and more efficient oxygen diffusion, right? So then we're able to provide the muscles with the nutrients and the oxygen that it needs in order for this energy to occur, for this energy to be produced. And this is essentially similar to the same training prescription as the cardiac output stroke volume, which is long, slow aerobic work. If we go to the next slide, I think I have the question. So if that's the case, how is this exercise prescription different than the stroke volume and cardiac output? The way I would look at it is this one's a little bit more sport specific. So we want more capillary, if you're a cyclist, you want more capillary density in your lower legs where most of these muscles will be activated more, right? Than a swimmer, for example. Swimmer is going to be a little bit more upper body. So cyclists, then that's where you sprinkle in sport-specific work. I want more capillary density in the lower body, so there's more oxygen demands. There's going to be more oxygen demands there, right? So you want those to become more dense here. Versus a runner, then you're going to do more sport-specific running stuff. So to increase stroke volume and cardiac output, yes, you're doing slow, easy, zone 2 aerobic work for a lot of volume, but you could do it in any modality. The heart won't recognize, like, it doesn't care what you're doing as long as you're doing the work. So I could row for 40 minutes. I could bike for 40 minutes easy. I could run for 40 minutes easy. I'm still getting the same adaptations here. For capillary density, if I want to become a better cyclist, then I'm going to cycle. And I'm going to get capillary density adaptations where I need them, depending on the modality of the sport. All right, sweet. And then back to the picture of the lipid bilayer in the mitochondrial, the oxidative enzyme activity. So oxidative phosphorylation is the aerobic pathway to create energy in our body, right? So when you are going on a run, you're using the oxidative phosphorylation energy system, right? So you're using that energy system here, and there's enzymes involved, and each one of these proteins embedded in the lipid bilayer is an enzyme, and they allow this reaction, this oxidative phosphorylation, to happen. Without it, the reaction either doesn't happen or it doesn't happen fast enough. So they are essential. So if we want more of those enzymes, and we want those enzymes to work optimally, how do we do that? Similar prescription to the mitochondrial biogenesis one, where you're going to want to do more harder, higher intensity effort, okay? Because those pathways that I mentioned, that AMPK, the PCG1 alpha, those are activated. They help with mitochondrial biogenesis, and they also help with the oxidative enzyme activity. So they increase that as well. So again, you need more ATP when you're doing that type of, when you're exercising in general, you need more ATP. So these proteins, these enzymes become super efficient in doing that. Okay. So they become super efficient in creating that ATP, and they do that through those high intensity work. Sweet. All right. So at the end of it, just like with strength training, what's one of the biggest variables to make sure that someone gets stronger over time and more fit is consistency. It's like the boring answer that no one wants to hear, because they want to hear science stuff and like stuff that's like super, high level, but it's like, just show up and you'll be good. But with that, if you want to optimize your performance, endurance performance, you're going to want to have volume to build capacity and intensity to build capability. Okay, so you want a mixture of everything in order to get the biggest bang for your buck. All right, next slide. Best practices, accumulate quality. Yeah, so you guys already know stuff. Like if you're going on an easy run, this is the main thing I'll actually say from here. If you're doing your easy aerobic work, keep it easy. So for example, there's, we'll talk about the Norwegian 4x4 method in one of the later slides. But do you guys know Brian Johnson, the longevity guy? He like wants to live forever, and he like takes his son's blood and all this stuff. So there's a study about the Norwegian method. Like I said, we'll talk about it later. But he's like, it has to do something with longevity. So obviously he's going to jump on that bandwagon. He's like, oh, this is like what you do to, live long. So he doesn't. And there's a video of him doing it. He does the first 4 minutes. He goes at a pretty fast pace. Second 4 minutes, even faster. Sets 3 and 4, he's not able to maintain that pace because he just fried himself the first 2 minutes. So sets 3 and 4, he's essentially dead and can't do them. So you just ruin the whole workout. right? Like you have to make sure that you know those paces and you know the different gears. And so that's what I mean when I say pace appropriately. If you're going on an easy run, make it easy. I'm horrible at doing that, but that's like, you know, I'm supposed to tell you that. Like slow down, make it easy. It should feel easier than what you think, right? Like you should feel it, like at the end of it, you should be like, huh, that was kind of weird. Like, did I actually do it? Yes, yeah, exactly. Borderline boring, yes. And yeah, I know, 'cause it's like, usually at the end of it, like you're not sweating as much, your heart rate's like not as high. You just feel like, oh, I didn't do much, so I'm gonna go lift now because like I need to do something. So yeah, just make sure you're pacing appropriately. So I Googled V02Max workouts just to see what was on Google and what's out there, because there's always like something, right? Like Instagram will tell you like, oh, you want to boost your V02Max, you do this, blah, blah, blah. So I Googled it and I found this infographic. This is all the infographic said. And I made it the same colors as the slide. So this is what the infographic said. No context. It didn't tell, this is all, you know. So at first I'm looking at it and I'm trying to make sense of it. Are they saying that we do the Norwegian 4x4 method 2 times per week for 8 weeks and then do this every other day? I don't know. But if that's the case, I know. So that's, I don't think that's what they meant, but they didn't give any information. They just said, hey, this is a good, great VO2 max boost workout. So looking at, actually before I go into that, Norwegian 4x4, there was a research on it recently by Norwegians, and they had 4 separate groups of people. One group of people were doing the 4x4 method, where they're going at 4 sets, 4 minutes, at 90 to 95% of their max heart rate, and they did that 2 to 3 times a week for 8 weeks. Then they had another group that did easy aerobic work for 30 to 45, I think it was 45 minutes. Then they had 2 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week, 8 weeks. The other group did threshold work for 24 minutes, and that's about, I want to say it was like 75-ish% of their max heart rate, 2 to 3 times a week, 8 weeks. And then the other group did like very short sprints, 15 seconds on, 15 seconds off. I forgot how many rounds of it, 2 to 3 times a week, 8 weeks. And what they found was who had the highest heart rate or VO2 max gains. It was the Norwegian method. It was a 4x4, right? So they had 15% increase average of their VO2 max, which is a lot. But also that's like telling someone, hey, do the German volume training, right? For 8 weeks. And it's like, versus another group that's doing maybe body weight training, and then one group that's doing like sub-maximal bodybuilding style training. Who's going to get stronger? If they don't get injured, probably the 10x10 group, because they're doing like high intensity, high volume, like, you know, but eventually that, we all know that plateaus. And doing that 2 to 3 times a week is going to wreck you, right? We all know that. So in strength, that's essentially what the study was in strength terms, right? So they did this thing and they found it. So it's like, yes, it makes sense. You have the stimulus of you're performing at VO2 max repeatedly for 8 weeks. People were probably novice to intermediate, so they're going to see big increases in VO2 max. It makes sense. Is it feasible? Is that how you should program it? No. But that being said, a 4x4 I think is great. I do like that training style for doing like a VO2 max session, but you don't have to do exactly 4x4. You do 5x3, you can do 8x2. As long as you have the stimulus of you're going at a high VO2 and you're going at the same intensity and you're accumulating time at that intensity. So just be aware of that. But you'll hear Norwegian 4x4 is like the very popular one, and it is a killer workout if you guys ever want to do it. You did it on the rower, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You pulled a Brian Johnson. Yeah. So yes. I would do like 1 interval and then my tummy would hurt. So this is the infographic, right? So it tells you that No other context. So the way I read it at first was like, all right, you do Norwegian method 2 times per week for 8 weeks, and then you do this every other day. I don't know. I don't know if that's what they meant. But if you're looking at this, what changes would you make to this program? What's like the things that stand out?
I would do the Norwegian, but then all my other workouts would be long, slow,
Right. Yeah. Add in, like maybe decrease the amount of Norwegian from 2 times to 1 time. Add in slow, boring work. Yeah, definitely. Anything else?
I just need to be more specific. I mean, this would give anybody burnout, basically.
Yeah.
If you're thinking that that's every other day, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, I guess if I were interpreting it, it would be these are twice per week, and then you like pick this supporting workout, like one of these.
It could, yeah.
And you kind of just sprinkle them in. And I mean, if it's for 8 weeks, then just kind of go down the list. But
Exactly. Yeah. And so if that is the case, like that's the main workout, and then you pick one of the supporting ones, like for 1 time a week, then we pick from that list. That's still 3 very high intensity. So you're going to have to still add some boring, slow work somewhere.
Or I would do 1 day of the Norwegian, 1 day of the supporting workout.
That works. Yeah. Yeah.
The rest would be
Yeah.
shit.
Exactly. For sure.
Or 5 days of all of this.
Yes. Just
Just, yeah, see how long you can have.
in the morning, do the Norwegian, the evening, do 800-meter repeats. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. Okay.
Yep. So, exactly. And if you're looking at the pacing for each of these, it's pretty much VO2 max type pacing. So that's also another thing too, like maybe some tempo. If you want to do like a harder one, you can still do tempo. You do easy ones, like the easy, slow, boring ones.
To do interns on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should have the interns do 12 to 16 400-meter repeats.
Yes.
Yeah. Out of 5.
Well, we have 10 of them coming in. Let's see how many last after that, and then we know who's quality to stay.
Yeah.
All right.
Who wants it? All right. So an example program, it's probably familiar to you kind of, but if someone comes up to me and they're like, hey, I have 3 days a week where I want to do some type of endurance work, and they're looking to just get better endurance performance, VO2 max, all of that, then what I'm going to do if they have 3 days a week, then we're going to touch on each one of the things I mentioned: tempo work, true VO2 max, high intensity efforts, and the most long, slow, boring. So you can do it that way. If someone comes up to you and they have 3 days a week and you want to do just 1 VO2 max and maybe 2 easy, you can do that as well. So just be aware there are different ways. We all know this, right? There are different ways to program. You don't have, like, if someone comes with a goal, you could do it a million different ways, as long as they're consistent and yours has some type of rationale behind it that makes sense and is backed with like sound principles, you should be good to go. But this is like something example, right, wise that I would do. You know, I have a VO2 max interval, then I'm going to have a bridge or strength endurance work that could be like comfortably hard pacing, hills, something like that. Give them ample rest in between, and then easy aerobic work.
Like training plan.
Simple, all right? All right, research.
The amount of how simple it is, the amount of people who do it versus those increases.
Yeah,
Really, I think, differentiates between like those who wait for
yeah, yeah,
versus, because it's boring, like, you know, to go out there and you're just like you said, you're not sweating and you know you have to keep that.
Right.
pace. And sometimes, like, if you're an athlete, you're like, well, I want to push harder.
exactly.
To accomplish what you're trying to get.
There was one of the triathletes who I was talking to. She's like, yeah, everyone thinks our sport is hard, but when you think about it, most of our stuff is easy stuff. She's like, I went on an easy run, and then I'm going into the easy swim, then I have a shakeout bike tomorrow. And like everything they do is easy, and then like one day out of the week, they're actually doing like hard stuff. And then everything is truly easy. I'll go into their training room when they're like all cycling, and they're all just cycling, chatting with each other, and they have like a movie up on the screen, and they're watching like Elf or whatever, and they're all just like chatting and all that. And that's one of their practices for the day, one of their training sessions. So she's like, yeah, everyone thinks it's hard, but honestly, it's all just easy work. It's just a lot of time. And that's where people, get tripped up because they have a hard time coming in here for an hour every 2 or 3 times a week. And then you're asking them, hey, can you do a 45-minute session on top of that of just easy, boring running where it's just you and your thoughts. And they get kind of caught up with that. So I always had trouble with this because it's we know a lot of the solutions to getting better endurance performance is endurance work, right? Slow, boring work. But if someone were to come in here and they're like, hey, I want to get better in my endurance and I want to increase my VO2 max, and we know one of the variables, one of the keys to that is slow, boring work, they'd probably be offended if you're just oh yeah, hop on the bike for 30 to 45 minutes. And they're just I'm paying you for you to tell me to go on the bike or to go on a walk or a hike. So you have to get creative with it. So, I do things where I'm okay, go on the bike 3 minutes, nasal breathe, then farmer carry, and then do some body weight lunges up and down and kind of make it circuity, but not to the point where it's CrossFit crazy, where it's they're going nuts and they're puking after 5 minutes. You kind of have to you have to emphasize the pacing to them and how it's supposed to feel, but also make it so that they're oh, this was clever, this was smart, this is elite training, versus telling them go on the bike for 30 to 45 minutes. And I think that's always been the dilemma, I think, with me, where even with athletes at the U of A, they want something crazy. They're oh, well, I'm a D1 athlete, I deserve this. And it's honestly, you just need to go on the Stairmaster for 30 minutes, put on headphones, I don't care, do whatever, but that's what's really gonna move the needle for you. But they want something clever, so I have them sled push and then go on the bike and then go on a rower, go back to the sleds, carry something. So that's always gonna be the dilemma. Because if not, yeah, they're gonna be bored and they're not gonna do it for a while. All right, sweet. So research, you guys probably heard it all the time. VO2 max is a direct correlation to longevity. We also hear with grip strength too. But for the grip strength thing, we know that's not because you train your grips, your grip strength, and then, hey, you're gonna live longer. It's because it's a proxy of overall fitness and strength, right? Same thing with VO2 max. It's VO2 max, yes, if you have a higher VO2 max, you're probably aerobically fit and you have a strong heart, so you're gonna live longer, right? And research has proven that, and I think there's a lot of strong data supporting that, but people think it's specifically VO2 max. So you'll hear people oh, I need to train my VO2 max because longevity or whatever. It's yeah, you just need to become aerobically fit. And VO2 max is one of the foundational pillars for that. We know that, but there are other things beyond that. So, but there's research that shows it, right? If you have a high VO2 max, meaning you're high aerobically, you have a high aerobic fitness, you're gonna have less death rate. Then you'll see it's pretty drastic, the graph here. So nothing crazy there, but we all know that when people say it. There's this research. It's a meta-analysis, meaning they looked at a ton of research papers and kind of made a review article of it that looked at all of the correlations between morbidity, mortality rate, and VO2 max, and they kind of made the correlation there. But it's looking at over 20 million observations, which is a lot of data, and almost 200 unique studies, right? So it's pretty backed, high VO2 max, longevity, high VO2 max being a proxy of fitness, right? It's not groundbreaking there. And then looking at hazard ratios is just a ratio of mortality rate of low VO2 versus mortality rate of high VO2. And you could see that the mortality rate is almost 2 times higher for the low VO2 max people. And a hazard ratio is a statistical term, but essentially if it's over 1, it's significant, right? So anything over 1 shows statistical significance, and it's almost 2, which is a lot for all of them. So it's a good correlation that, hey, do some aerobic fitness. It's good for you. This is some normative data of elite athletes for men and women. And if you're familiar with like running and cycling, you'll probably recognize some of these names. But high VO2 max. I have one athlete, he trains at Catfoot with me. He did a VO2 max test, and he did the test in Utah with a guy who was a former Olympic cyclist coach, and he has like his own performance center. So he went to him to do his VO2 max, and the kid's VO2 max is 96. Yeah, so 96 VO2 max, it's wild. But this kid, he's a really good triathlete, like really good. Potential Olympics maybe, but he has a lot to work on. If you look at, I think you saw him train one time, very not strong kid, typical like endurance and all that. So when he's running, his running economy is not great. You'll see he goes like this. He even walks like this kind of, he gets repeated injuries, things like that. So for him, he needs to continue doing triathlete specific training, obviously. You can't just strip that away from him. He needs to continue doing that. But the coach, the triathlon coach, is not focused on increasing his VO2 max. Like any of these guys here, none of them are focused on increasing their VO2 max. That's not going to be the differentiator between them. The differentiator is going to be who has a better running economy, who can withstand like the demands of the sport. So being able to sprint at the end when you're exhausted, right? And to finish strong, or being able to go up hills repeatedly on those really hard courses that come up. Being able, if you're doing triathlon, being able to really like maneuver the bike and know all the bike stuff, right? So that's what moves the needle. It's not doing like true VO2 max focus work. They test their VO2 max, I would say like yearly or every 6 months, but it's just to kind of like get the number. It's not truly like they're still working on increasing their VO2 max. They've tapped that out already. So just keep that in mind. For example, like you met one of the triathletes that was at my house the other day, Lydia, right? Lydia is an amazing runner. She's a pro triathlete. She went to the World Championships this past year, is one of the top in the world, and is, I think, one of the youngest ones in the field, and this was her first year as a pro. And she was giving everyone like a run for their money. At the World Championships, so she gets there, and there was a lot of high hopes for her, and I don't know if she was unaware of this or if she wasn't like, if it caught her by surprise mid-race, but the course for the bike part of it was very hilly, like extremely. So when she got to the top of one of the hills, she realized it was very steep and she wasn't ready for it. And we know it's kind of like, doing dangerous stuff like that, it becomes more of a mental game. So she got to the top of the hill and she was doing really well too. And once it gets to the running part of triathlon race, that's where she makes her money and she'll like smoke people. So she gets to the top of the hill on her bike and she's like, I'm not doing this. And she's World Championships, she disqualifies herself because like it was like to her it was like a safety thing, like I wasn't ready for this. So this off season, right, again, elite level, she's not focused on VO2 max, like hers is probably up there as well. She's focused on more like hills and being able to maneuver that more. So that's like where the differentiator becomes. But yeah. Okay, cool. And then this is another study. I just think it's, again, becoming familiar with the numbers. For this one, they have 140 subjects, almost 50-50 males and females, not quite, but they compare non-athlete males with athlete males and non-athlete females with athlete females. So Marley had athlete female VO2 max, so pretty crazy there. She almost had athlete male of VO2 max. But so you can get like familiar with the numbers, right? So if someone tells you like, hey, I have a 50 VO2 max, you're just like, oh shit, that's really good. Versus someone tells you 25, you're like, we could work on that, right? So then that's where you're like, we work on that with you. So yeah, so that's where it comes in. All right, sweet. All right, takeaways. Like I said, VO2, the two different areas that you could work on to increase that. If you're working, like I said, if you're working with an elite level athlete, you're not focused on increasing their VO2 max. But for a lot of people, there's a lot of room for growth on that, and that's through central and peripheral adaptations. If you get someone who's really unfit, they come in here and they're like, hey, I haven't worked out in 5 years. I'm a mom of 2 kids. I work every day, normal 40, 50-hour work week behind a desk. Well, what should I do? Well, we know slow, long, volume accumulated work, but we're gonna have to dress it up a certain way to spice it up. But we know that a lot of her gains are gonna be mostly through the heart, the cardiac output, right? And we know to get higher cardiac output is that long, slow, boring work. If someone comes in and they're highly trained already, so they come to me and they're like, oh yeah, like, I work out all the time. I did CrossFit for 5 years. I actually was pretty competitive. I made it to regionals and then I stopped. And now I just like do a bunch of high roxes and this and that. And I do races. I still lift. I did powerlifting, whatever, all this stuff. That's like, okay, they're probably not going to have much gains in their VO2 max. It's like the strength like gains, right? Like it goes here, newbie gains, and then it plateaus off. Same thing with VO2 max. So I'm not going to be like, oh, we can increase your VO2 max. I'm thinking to myself like, okay, you probably have those adaptations that are probably pretty high up there. We can, if you do get any VO2 max gains, it's going to be mostly peripheral adaptations. So those capillaries, mitochondria density, capillary density, and oxidative enzyme activity. Okay, so we could do some of that, but none of it's going to be outstanding and all that, and you're going to get most of your benefit probably through strength training and getting better with, like, let's say they want to do a race, ground contact time, posture, dynamic trunk control, all those things that, you know, they need to work on so that they can become better runners, because at that point their VO2 max is tapped out. You don't have to worry about that as much. So that's what I've noticed too, like working with a lot of athletes. Like, obviously I don't do their conditioning for triathlon, like the strength coach that the triathlon coach, he does that. So I'm working a lot on getting them stronger so they move better, and also injury prevention. VO2 max, it's your aerobic ceiling. It's built by having a sustainable program, being consistent, and having smart intensity distribution. And that's pretty much it. I talked a lot. I am very sorry. Thank you for listening. Does anyone have any questions or anything?
I guess just from a programming standpoint, the one mental dilemma I always have, so you have someone who comes in and they're only going to work out 2 times a week.
Yeah.
Work out, period.
Yeah.
You may get them out on a walk. So it's a good chunk of the Block Fitness clientele.
Yeah.
You're thinking longevity. Are you going to try and work in, like, you're not going to get them to do that zone 2.
I know.
So you get
Yeah.
2 hours. What do you program as, like, this is what has to happen?
Yeah, I think so. And I was telling this to Marley, I think recently, about like, I think CrossFit does it well, right? Because there's elements of strength, and then you're also getting heart rate coming up. But the thing with CrossFit that I find not good is that they're constantly working that like super high intensity all the time where people get wrecked. Like I remember when I would do like classes and all that stuff with CrossFit or on my own training, like I would be wrecked at the end of the week because like all of the stress that's on my body. So people see this like shoot and performance is like, oh man, I'm getting stronger and I'm getting more fit, but that plateaus. I plateaued so fast with that, and I had to be smarter with my training. And luckily I was training multiple times throughout the week, but you're getting someone, let's say like, mom who doesn't have a lot of time, they're only coming here 2 times a week. So it's like, you got to get creative. And I think that's where I try to do things like not circuit, but like kind of circuit, where it's like, there's like a strength part of it. Maybe like farmers, like I was saying, like farmers carries and go on the bike, and then like maybe some walking lunges. So you're getting kind of both stimulus, like your heart rate's going to be up as you're transitioning between, but you're getting some type of strength work. And I think that's the battle we face, because it's like, you truly do need more than 2 times a week, I think, because again, they're also really weak. So they need to do the strength side of it. And so it's like but you want them to be overall healthy, which is a battle of endurance, strength, and all that. So I do like working with people like that. I would always do like a 30-minute type EMOM. So I'll have maybe like a strength block in the beginning, and then a 30-minute type EMOM that has like strength accessories in there, and then some like aerobic work where they could go in there, right? And then it's nice too, because like a lot of times people do want to sweat to some extent. They want to, like, that's the thing, right? Like, oh, I'm sore, I'm sweaty, like that's what they want. They're like, so they get that in there as well. It was like, and then they could monitor, because we also know we get people where it's like they either like they don't know how to work hard or they want to go too hard. So if you give them a circuit where they're going on the bike, those people who do want to work hard, go for it. Sprint on the bike for that minute during that EMOM, right? Like if you want to work hard, at least you're getting your heart rate up and you're doing something during your 2 times a week visit. Or if those who are scared to work out and or scared to push hard and they want to go easy all the time, then you're going to see them go like this, but it's like, hey, at least you're moving. Like, I'm good with that, because like even if you're moving like this, heart rate's going to go up a little bit and eventually you'll get used to it. Maybe you'll go a little harder. That's how, yeah. But it's the battle. It's the battle.
It's so hard for it too, because then it's like, oh, well, I'm not seeing results, or I'm not getting in shape, or I'm not getting fit, and then they blame the program and this, and like 2 hours out of 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know there was a previous gym where one of my friends worked at, and she was an intense person, super, super fit. She was on stuff. But she would work out super hard, and it was crazy. But she would treat her clients like they were her, right? So she would like do the crazy stuff. Some of the clients loved it though.
Yeah.
Right? They like loved getting wrecked. You guys know this. Like they loved getting wrecked and they stayed. But other ones, they were like, bro, we're out. Like we just wanted to get like healthy, and now like she's making us go like V02Max every time. So there's that too. But yeah, it's always been a battle, man, doing that. But I think keeping a mixture, and I always go with like EMOMs and circuits and all that, and they could dictate how hard they want to go. And then as they get used to it, as they confide in me more, then that's where I'm like, okay, let's go this. And, you know, I become familiar with their paces. It's like, okay, last time on that EMOM, during that minute, you only did 6 calories on the bike. Let's try 7 on at least 2 of the rounds. The rest of them go 6. Like, I don't care. And then like start getting that in there. And they realize like, okay, I did 6 for 4 rounds last time. Maybe I could do one of the rounds, do 7, you know, and try to make those small wins.
Do you think total like strength helps running economy?
Yes and no. I think more it's like movement efficiency of your lower body, and right, like you'll see people, and this is a Marley question too from like the athletic training side, where it's like leg strength is going to help, right? Because then you'll be able to power through and all that. But then it's like there's also, if there's too much, let's say like a bodybuilder running, and let's say the bodybuilder has good aerobic fitness, they do a lot of Stairmaster, so they have some good aerobic fitness, they're still going to have a lot of oxygen demand going there because there's more muscles, so that also slows them down too, so you have to think about that. That's why like a lot of endurance athletes like, I don't want to get too bulky because it's not good for running because it's going to slow like the oxygen demand. It's like, it's true to some extent, it's like, but you're not going to get that bulky to the point where that's going to happen. It's like if you're doing pure bodybuilding training, then yes. But if you're running and you're doing strength training 2 to 3 times a week, and it's not like bodybuilding style strength training, like you're not fucking Ronnie Coleman doing stuff like, and you're not taking like testosterone and stuff, you'll be fine. But also like the strength the movement efficiency. So like being able to work the muscles that help with running. So Marley, if you want to chime in on this, but like, for example, one of the athletes that I work with was seeing Marley because she has a lot of IT band issues. And then like, if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, with the IT bands, she's obviously the nature of the sport is lots of running. but IT band attaches to the lateral hip musculature. We tested the hip musculature and it's very weak. You know, like what I told her to do was left easy on the pitch sharp and do a ton of marching so you can build up that muscular strength and endurance that can sustain hip stability while you're running, right? So that carries over. Yeah, and that goes a long way.
Dude, yeah. Well, we were able to use the belt squat machine at the house, yeah, and we just put the boxes. But you could do them too, like I've seen them done, like if you were to do it in here with like bands, and then you attach a belt to like the band, so the band's like on the rig there, so it's there, and then I'm stepping over the band